Hello, everyone. My name is Cheree Tham. I'm the co-founder and vice president of programs and initiatives at America's Warrior Partnership. Thank you for joining us today to learn about how the Tierney Center for Veteran Services is championing Operation Deep Dive throughout the state of California. As you may know, Operation Deep Dive is a community-based study around veterans who have died by suicide, overdose, asphyxiation, drowning, accidental gunshot, suicide by law enforcement, or single driving high-speed car accident. Throughout the rest of the program, we will refer to this as suicide and other non-natural causes. Currently, this study is being conducted in 15 states across the country. It is led by our team at America's Warrior Partnership and researchers from the University of Alabama with the generous support from the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation. We appreciate you taking the time to learn how Californians can work together to gain a better understanding around protective factors that communities can provide to support the mental health efforts around those who have lost hope. Please post your questions in the chat, and we will answer them throughout the conversation. We are hosting our Facebook Live event today with Denton Knapp, the director of the Tierney Center for Veteran Services at the Goodwill of Orange County. The Tierney Center for Veteran Services has been an invaluable affiliate of America's Warrior Partnership and champion of Operation Deep Dive. Denton, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Cheree, and hello to everybody out there. It's an honor to co-host today's Facebook Live event with you. Share information about what we've been doing through the Tierney Center for Veteran Services, which is part of Goodwill of Orange County in support of Operation Deep Dive. I'm a veteran of 30 years service in the Army. I served the past 3 years as the director for the Tierney Center for Veteran Services, Goodwill of Orange County. And the Tierney Center is actually a collaborative of about 8 veteran service providers dedicated to serve in one location for comprehensive resources for our veterans and their families. We've been partners with America's Warrior Partnership since the inception of Operation Deep Dive, and before then, and along with their community integration program model that we've instituted here in Orange County. We provide veterans with one-on-one navigators, peer navigators to help them write resources, get the right resources, streamline those resources for them so it's the most effective and efficient way for them to get them. And our navigators are also fellow veterans, so immediately there's that trust that is built in, and it enables them to help navigate from resource to resource, whether it's through our private or through our public assets with the government. We provide veterans with all kinds of things. And one of the pleasures that I have is also working with the Orange County Veterans and Military Families Collaborative. And this collaborative also serves as our Community Veteran Engagement Board designated by the VA. It's about a 100-member organization that serves veterans and their families. We complete the public and private partnership by including not only the County Veteran Service Office, the CalVet liaison, and also our VA representatives in Long Beach and LA in our meetings so that we really tie the knot and complete the process for assisting with the capability gaps they may have in the government to take care of our veterans, their families. It's been a privilege to come on here and talk, and we've been working this for a while. Cheree, I'll let you tell them a little bit more about the program.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, Denton. You and your team have been incredible allies since the study's inception, and I'm excited for our viewers to hear your insights today. You spoke about the collaborative, and I remember how impressive the Orange County Collaborative was when I was first introduced to Orange County. I think it was probably about like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe. And it was the collaborative that nominated the Goodwill of Orange County to be the leader in the community that would ensure that the partners were communicating and working together, as well as proactively outreaching and engaging with the veterans prior to a crisis to build a relationship and to connect them with the services when needed. I'd like you to expand a little bit more on assisting our viewers in understanding the real power behind the partnerships and how you and your partners have worked together to support other gaps you've seen in the community, as well as Operation Deep Dive.
Sure, Cheree. The collaborative began back in 2013, so it's been going on for almost a decade now. And we've come up with a strategy, a 5-year strategy that actually covers the environment of Orange County for our veterans, what we see as the major problems, and the 6 or 7 of those that we feel we can accomplish within the 1 to 5 year program time. And we do that in conjunction with our public partners. So as I mentioned, the County Veteran Service Office, CalVet Liaison, VA Health in Long Beach, and VA Benefits in Los Angeles come to our meetings, participate, and we look at what we can provide for them to assist in their efforts to take care of our veterans and families. So Orange County itself has the fourth largest veteran population in California, and of course, one of the largest in the nation, with close to about 130,000 veterans. And although we have that, we don't have a huge VA footprint in our county. As I mentioned, our benefits are located in Los Angeles, and our health is located in Long Beach. At times, it can be an hour drive from here, depending on traffic. We do have 3 small clinics, which are taking care of some capabilities, but for the most part, we need a lot of help still from our non-profit partners. And that's where we come into this collaborative. We've got about 100 different organizations that are members, everything from health and wellness to housing to education to employment, families and children. And we also got a task force on aging veterans now, aging isolated veterans. So it takes us collaborative to really complete that. And the designation of Community Veteran Engagement Board by the VA enables us to have a voice for our veterans straight to the VA on what our status is and what we need help with.
Great, thank you. And our objective today is to ensure everyone watching understands how, as individuals and as collaboratives, they can support Operation Deep Dive in their community. Every veteran faces their own unique challenges that can change based on who they are and where they live. This creates a complex network of issues that can have a huge impact on veterans' quality of life. Operation Deep Dive seeks to create a methodology for understanding the issues and challenges that are unique to a community, and more importantly, how they can be resolved. Denton, would you elaborate on how we are doing this, or how Californians can do this?
Sure. So what we'd like everyone to do is ensure that every citizen of California is aware of Operation Deep Dive. So that marketing outreach that needs to occur through all different sources, especially now with the COVID, limited to a lot of social media, emails, and other things, but being creative to do that. And if anyone has lost a veteran to suicide or other non-natural causes within the last 2 years, that we'd like them to know that they may be eligible to participate in Operation Deep Dive through an interview. And this is important in capturing the stories of those veterans, whether it's coworker, family, fellow service member. Those that know somebody that has died of suicide or non-natural causes can come forward and actually present that through the campaign and create that awareness. Part of our database, we're able to take a good look at what our population looks like for Orange County and California. Interviews that help researchers determine how veterans interacted with their local communities. So, looking at before their death, what service they were in, how they came out, where they were living, did they have a home, did they have a job, did they have family in the locations, where did they frequent, as far as fitness centers, restaurants, what activities they're involved in prior to the suicide, and then what was the cause, looking at those different indicators that may come out based on that. It'll help us guide into creating more effective and impactful solution for programs for prevention. And that's what we're really focused on.
Yeah, and yesterday you and I were on a call and you were talking to me about what I really enjoy about you guys in Orange County and the Tierney Center is the really creative ways that you go out and outreach and you engage veterans in your communities. And yesterday you talked about the COVID vaccine being available to veterans and how you guys at the Tierney Center were engaging those veterans. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Sure. We just had a great presentation on that earlier this morning, which included the county healthcare agency and also our VA public affairs and community director, Richard Beam. So what came apart is because of our relationship in the collaborative, VA Health came to us and asked, do you have a location where we can start giving the new Johnson & Johnson vaccine to veterans that are registered in the Long Beach healthcare system for VA? And I offered up the Tierney Center, which we're going to do eventually, but we ended up doing it at the Santa Ana Clinic, just around the corner. And between the hours of 8 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we were able to provide vaccines for 500 veterans. And not only that, as the veterans lined up, and there was a nonstop line of about 30 veterans continuously coming in there, we were able to offer other services as they're waiting in line. Everything from passing out the VA book of benefits, CalVet, and also offering some of the things we offer the Tierney Center and from other collaborative members for services for families and the veterans themselves. So it was a very successful day, and we're going to do that again in about 30 days when the next load of vaccines comes in. So that partnership right there, just our relationship helped that to happen. And then we had the facilities to be able to help the VA accomplish their mission.
That's great. And I think that's a great illustration of one way that you connect with the veterans in your community and you start that initial relationships with them, which is so important for the overall quality of life for the veterans. But then it also, in addition to, and Operation Deep Dive is not different from the quality of life, but getting that information out to them, and you have that relationship with the veterans that you come in contact with. I don't, the University of Alabama doesn't, but you do. And that is so important that you champion how you've been championing this in California, Denton. And you've touched on something that we hear so many people who actually contact our research team. They say, what can I do? How can I help? And our researchers and community leaders are hard at work in creating more effective programs. We also want individuals to understand how they can help. In addition to the example that you just gave, what are some ways people can contribute to Operation Deep Dive?
As you mentioned earlier, Cheree, with a lot of those points, the most important thing is getting out there and asking the questions. And those questions are you a veteran? Or do you know a veteran if you weren't one? And do they have family? Do you have family? And then that relationship, that trust needs to be built through communication, building that relationship, which will enable them to talk about a loss. And I know this firsthand. I lost soldiers in combat to suicide. I lost soldiers here in peacetime in garrison to suicide. And I lost my own son at 20 years old to suicide. So I have a deep passion for prevention and looking at what we can do for indicators. And that's what this whole study is geared toward, is identifying those social cultural indicators that may lead us to understand how to help veterans before they get to that point. And so I think it's very important that we just ask those questions. So people who want to participate in these interviews can help us better understand unique factors that impact a veteran's well-being in California compared to other states. And as you mentioned, there's 15 states doing this. So it'll take a pretty good look. And ultimately, we want to give local service providers and veteran organizations a methodology that'll empower them to better direct their efforts, whether that's funding, time, resources, to engage veterans and enhance their quality of life. And then participating in an interview is a meaningful opportunity for individuals to share their stories. And I often say that, it's hard enough to get a veteran to say, I'm a veteran. We go out in the community, we try to blend in, and you may be working next to somebody for 10 years and never know they're a veteran because you didn't ask. So we say, ask the questions. I mistake a lot of people that aren't veterans for veterans because they look like it and they act like it. But, they take that as a compliment, actually. But you got to ask those questions to be able to create that trust, that relationship where people will open up and say, yeah, I'd like to tell a story about a veteran that I know, or my father or my brother or grandfather that died of suicide or other non-natural causes that may lead us to get that story complete and get those indicators identified. If you aren't eligible to participate in an interview, you can share information about the study with other people through your own networks. So sharing the Operation Deep Dive information on social media, through email, sending those links out that actually have, the statements on there that you need to ask them to do an interview. So that makes it easy for you and with the resources that America's War Partnership has available. You can support the veterans in your life that may be struggling. You can offer them information about Tierney Center, Veteran Services here, our collaborative, and other resources. We just had a inpatient facility open up in Orange County. It was a partnership between the county and nonprofits with Be Well OC and Mind OC, and that provides inpatient care facilities with beds for addiction, alcohol, drug, suicide prevention, ideologies, to get those patients in there and get them treatment long-term. And we hadn't had that before. So that's something important that came up. Those types of facilities, those types of services to get veterans involved in. If you're a service member, veteran in crisis out there, and you're concerned about one, And remember to call the Veterans Crisis Line, and we put that out at 1-800-273-8255. And we're getting to the point, you can also send a text to that message, 838-255. So if you don't have that in your phones, shame on you. Go ahead and plug it in right now and save that under Suicide Veterans Crisis Line. And that way you can dial it up or share it with anybody that needs it at any time. Cheree, I'll pass it back to you.
Oh, great. Well, no, that's wonderful. So that you talked a little bit about on the individual level, like how individuals can contribute. What about organizations? If anyone in our audience works with a community service provider, what can they do to support Operation Deep Dive and suicide prevention?
And one of the things on that, Cheree, is, since I've been involved in suicide prevention for the past really 14 years, since my son's passing, we've always done the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of the Darkness walks as a community. And it was my goal when we started looking at this program is to pull in national organizations that support suicide prevention and awareness. And AFSP is exactly that. So fortunately, we have American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, Orange County, that chapter here, and they now attend our Operation Deep Dive meetings. So we've been able to integrate that. So yeah, if you got organizations that are out there that have veterans, American Legions, VFWs, Knights of Columbus, anything with the churches, schools, at the Veteran Resource Centers, any clubs or activities, everybody in there, if you ask, can raise their hand and say they know somebody that died of suicide. Guarantee it. Everybody in there can do that. Whether or not they're a veteran, don't know, but you can find that out. And those organizations are close. You know your members, you know their families, you spend time with them. So that relationship's already built, that trust is there. So ask the questions and make it a point of your organization to champion this. If you have a passion for this, join a group that does this. And our collaborative is one that you can do in our health and wellness working group, because we look at this at least once a month in our hour-and-a-half Zoom. And fortunately, we'll be back to live meetings soon.
Let's hope, huh? Yes, Operation Deep Dive is a community-based study, so we welcome any support that local nonprofits, businesses, government agencies, and concerned citizens are willing to provide. Denton, you have shared so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers that you didn't feel that we covered?
It's just so important right now, especially with COVID recovery. As we come out of this, people get their immunizations, and we start seeing it in the taillights. That as we go back to work and start getting back into communities, that we really think about the isolation that veterans have had, along with their families, having to stay home for a lot of them. And in particular, Orange County and a lot of California, we have an aging veteran population, and oftentimes isolated aging veterans. Is to reach out and ensure that we pull them in. I always talk about identity and the fact that once we serve, we always serve. You're never not a veteran. That stays with you for life, that character, that commitment, those values. And because of that, you have a sense of service. And so I always say, we never leave a fallen comrade. And that's in combat and here at home also. And leaving somebody with mental health issues and isolation and the chance of becoming lost in that, we owe a duty to our fellow service members and their families to continue to serve and to never leave a fallen comrade. We need to pull them up and get them to the right treatment facilities and talk to them, be that battle buddy. And the only way we can do that is to ask the questions, create the relationship, create the trust, and get them help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your insights today, Denton. I'm just going to do a little recap on how our viewers can support Operation Deep Dive. We are currently looking for interview participants who have lost a loved one, veteran, former service member to suicide or a non-natural cause of death within the last 24 months. Some of you may be wondering why we use veteran and former service member interchangeably. The reason is there are those that serve that do not consider themselves veterans for several reasons. And we want to make sure that everyone knows if you raised your hand to serve in our armed forces, then and you died by suicide or the other non-natural causes, your family and friends are eligible to be interviewed. The goal of these interviews is to understand how a deceased veteran was engaged with their community and how the community can better support veterans in the future. How can you participate? Well, you must be 18 years or older. You must have a relative, loved one, friend, or coworker who was a veteran and died by suicide or a non-natural cause of death within the last 24 months. The deceased former service member or veteran could have served as little as 1 day and received any type of discharge. Both you and the veteran must have lived in the same community prior to their death. Additionally, the community you and the veteran lived must be in California or one of the other 14 states participating in Operation Deep Dive. The other 14 states participating are Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, South Carolina, and Texas. If you are eligible and would like to participate or know someone who may want to participate, please visit americaswarriorpartnership.org/deep-dive to contact our research team. In addition, if you would like to opt in for monthly updates and information you can share with those you have relationships with, please complete the opt-in form at the bottom of the website. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. If we were not able to answer your questions or you have more questions, please continue to put them in the chat and we will continue to answer those questions or get back to you at a later date. Please contact our research team at americaswarriorpartnership.org/deep-dive. Thank you all for your support and for turning in today. Stay tuned to America's Warrior Partnership's Facebook page for information on future Operation Deep Dive discussions. Have a good afternoon, everyone.